A todas luces.
Un podcast de Iluminet. Con Jorge Curtidor y Antonio Arellano. Les damos una cordial bienvenida.
A todas luces.
Hello, welcome everybody. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas. This is A Todas Luces, our 14th episode, and we have Craig Dilouie with us from the LCA. How are you doing, Craig?
Oh, very well, thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. The first question is, tell us about the LCA. What is it you do? And a little bit of context, please.
Yes, first of all, thanks again for having me on, and welcome to all your listeners. Thank you for joining us. My name is Craig Dilouie. I serve as Education Director for the Lighting Controls Association. And this is an organization that was founded back, it's about 22 years old now. And the organization was founded initially to identify manufacturers of fluorescent ballasts, dimming ballasts, and lighting controls that were compatible. And this was to answer issues in the marketplace about interoperability. But then they realized they had a lot more than that. And they brought it under the auspices of our parent organization, the National Electrical Manufacturers Association, based in near Washington, D.C. And this is like representing the whole electro industry. Well, they started ministering us, and we grew from around 6 manufacturers back then to 24, 25 manufacturers today. And throughout that whole period, our entire mission has been to educate the public about lighting controls based on the economic theory that an educated marketplace will make the best choices and will consider lighting controls, make the best choices about products, and then implement them properly so that everyone is satisfied, from the people who put them in to the people who own them to the users. And as a result of that, that lighting controls would grow as a category and become adopted with more and more. The organization grew significantly over the years, not just in terms of membership, but in terms of use, and then of course our programs. There were several trends in the United States that sort of boosted this, which probably most notably was energy codes. The Department of Energy about 20 years ago started to recognize a national energy reference standard and required all states to have an energy code at least as stringent as that standard if they wanted to get certain types of enforcement funding for energy codes. And so as a result, that was based on the ASHRAE IES 90.1 standard. And that standard included some lighting controls from the 99 version, and then every 3 years it updated. And because the ASHRAE and IES had this goal of making it as, for maximize energy savings and for carbon neutrality, net zero and all that, they set this goal to push energy savings as hard as they could based on available technology. So LED came along, lighting controls became more sophisticated, certain strategies like daylight harvesting started to prove out as viable and worthwhile. And so each subsequent edition of the standard became more and more stringent. And so now you have 2%, 1 to 2%, whatever the construction rate is, replacing the existing building stock in the US. It's about 1 to 2% a year. That market became this amazing proving ground for lighting controls, notably in California, the world's 8th largest economy. Nobody has a tougher energy code than their energy code, which is Title 24. And they require a broad range of controls. So we started, so we saw a huge upswing in interest in lighting controls because of energy codes. And the primary purpose there was energy saving. And then this crazy thing happened, which was the LED revolution and the digitalization of lighting and wireless. And so all these trends combined so that you had pretty much every luminaire in the industry being either dimmable or dimmable as a standard option, and which opened up even more applications for energy codes, which opened up even more proving grounds for the controls, which opened up even more technological development. So that just, and then, you know, with LED, it opened up this whole other dimension, which is color, which was unheard of. I mean, you could do it in a very limited way in the past, but it was very hard to do, and it was very static. Now it's like dynamic. You can change color, temperature, saturate color on a dime through a control mechanism. That's just amazing. Well, all of this change created a huge demand for information. And so the Lighting Control Association stepped up, because that's our mission. That's what we do. We promote the category, and we educate the marketplace, so they make the best choices about controls, strategies, design, and products. So, and then that, of course, that's good for our members. So we embarked on many different programs. Probably the most significant, our mainstay program, is Education Express. Now, this is a free education program, available 24/7 online. You sign up, and anywhere in the world you can access more than 50 hours of instruction about energy codes, commissioning, design, technology, color control, all sorts of the Internet of Things, all sorts of every aspect of lighting controls you can think of is pretty much there, authored by experts, published there. There's a one-page summary sheet you can download. There's you can download the whole course if you want as a PDF. You can, if you take all the courses, you get sort of a diploma, a certificate of technical knowledge in lighting controls you can use for whatever purposes. And we do offer education credit. We're recognized by CalCTP in California. We're recognized by NCQLP for the LC, or lighting certified designation, for maintenance of that. We're recognized by the American Institute of Architects for health, safety, and welfare credits to maintain. And we're recognized as an education provider by the state of California, so that any electrical worker in the state, they have to get so many learning hours, they can take our courses and get those learning hours to maintain what they need to maintain. And so that's probably our biggest value to the industry, is we have this very robust online education platform. And it's all written, it's all text and graphics, but we are now revamping the whole system, so that for key courses in the future, you will start to have an option to take the course as a video. So you can either read the course, or you can watch a video that we're going to have YouTube post for us. And you can take the course there and basically listen to and watch a narrated PowerPoint. And then either way, at the end, you can take an online quiz. It's automatically graded. And then from that quiz, you get credit that you can use for whatever purposes you want. You can, maintain your LC certification. You can go to CalCTP and get live training to get their certification. You can go to AIA. You can go you can go to NALMCO and get their CLCP certification. You can do whatever you need to do. So besides Education Express, we have some other programs. We started sponsoring with the Illuminating Engineering Society, the very first lighting design award focused entirely on lighting controls. So that's been around for about 12, 13 years. It develops a huge number of case studies for us that we publish on our website, which is lightingcontrolsassociation.org. And it's just a terrific program. It's basically rewarding. It's basically saying a good lighting design requires a good lighting controls design. And it also says that controls aren't an add-on. They're just not that thing you put in to make the code authority happy. These are things that you integrate into your lighting system from the ground up, because it's part of the lighting system. And then you get all these different benefits from it. So it requires, it's thoughtful, it's there's a strategy, there's a plan, the owner's involved. It's not just something that's grafted on because you have to, or as a second thought, especially as a second thought. It's just something that is integrated into the design because it's good lighting. And so the awards say that to the industry, and we've started recognizing projects. And since, geez, over the years, we've probably recognized, at least with awards of merit at the least, maybe 300-400 projects that just are absolutely terrific. And we publish those with beautiful photography on our website. We also have a newsletter. Products from our members are published, different news, what's going on in the industry, what's going on with lighting controls, what's going on with energy codes, anything that has to do with anything with the world of lighting control. We act as a portal and clearinghouse for that kind of information. And we also publish an original feature article every month on a topic. And we're usually first to market, so to speak, with here's a take on the new Title 24. Here's a take on the new IECC. Here's a take on this publication that just came out from IES on the Internet of Things. We will very, very quickly write an article about it, get it on our website, and educate the industry about it. We have a terrific LinkedIn group that's very active, where we post all the stuff from our website, and other people can post things as long as it's lighting controls related. And other than that, we shoot videos at Light Fair, COVID permitting, where our members exhibit new products. And if you can't make it to the show, you can go to YouTube and see our videos there, where product managers at their booths are introducing new products. We interact with a lot of other organizations. We just signed an MOU with the Dolly Alliance to cross-promote our activities, especially around D4I, their new, relatively new standard. The Design Lights Consortium in the US, which is used to qualify products for many, many utility rebate programs, also recognizes our education. So we work with a lot of different groups, a lot of different organizations, to say to them a very simple value proposition, which is, don't recreate the wheel. That our industry used to do that a lot. Everybody who came in and said, I want to educate about lighting, they would just recreate lighting fundamentals over and over again. And we said, okay, go get your lighting fundamentals somewhere else. But when it comes to lighting controls, we're the experts. So we've worked with, like, the Illuminating Engineering Society, for example. We authored Seminar 4, we authored LEM 7, we authored DG 11 for them, and contributed to some other of their publications. We said, let us do what we do, and then we'll promote what you do, and you promote what we do, and we can all work together very happily and efficiently to educate the marketplace. And so I think that I would call those our salient programs. Those are the main things that we do. But I can guarantee that anybody who comes to our website, they'll learn something about lighting controls they didn't know. They'll hopefully learn something that they can take home with them and put, this is all about meat and potatoes on the table at the end of the day. Hopefully they'll learn skills that they can take back to their jobs and be more valuable in their profession, and excel in their profession, and better serve their clients. And so that's really what we're all about. And there have been loyal manufacturers who for over 20 years have funded us in that effort. And we've changed with the times, we've grown with the times. But we like to think that that value has always been consistent and has been consistently growing. That's a very long answer to a short question. Hope that covers it.
But it's really complete, and it really gives our listeners the reason why we invited you to the show, because as you mentioned, with all the actions you do, one of the way I found about LCA was because Education Express, and we're gonna put all these links in our notes from the episode and the website from LCA. Definitely a lot to learn. Didn't know about the influence you had in so many educational providers and so many associations. I had no idea. So it's really amazing what you do. I got a question right now about the members. So can you tell me a little bit how you get all of those competitors to agree to form this association, and how do they get involved? And how much do they get involved, or is it just they put some money, or a little bit? Tell us about the manufacturers, please.
Well, we're different from our parent NEMA, in that NEMA has a tiered dues system, or at least they used to. I think they still do. But the way that system works is it depends on your annual, it's roughly based on your company's revenues. We don't do that. We equalize everything. We say, it doesn't matter if you're a big company or small company, this is how much the dues are. And we kind of base the dues around what would it cost to run an ad in a magazine? And we don't want tons of money, and I mean, that would be nice, but we want to make it as painless and profitable with the best return on investment possible for our members. And so that means keeping the dues as lean as we can, and providing the maximum amount of value based on those dues, and then providing them information, because we're online, so we capture everything, data about who's going where and doing what, not individually, but like the raw numbers, like how many people are looking at our articles, how many people are doing this or doing that. And we report all this information to our members so that they can say, okay, well, we had 15 to 20,000 unique users visit the website this month, and they looked at so many pages producing tens of thousands of 50,000 impressions or whatever. And so they can say, well, they can go take that information, go back to their management and say, look, we're getting a return on investment. We're actually getting something. It's not just we're sending money out and they do nice things and then we're done. We're actually get to shepherd our investment and really validate it. And I'm a big believer in that. If I can measure it, I want to give it to the members. Again, we don't share private information, but all those numbers about how many people are doing this or that, we capture all that in a monthly report, and in an annual report, we send that to the members, and it keeps them very happy. And that's why our members come back every year. We've had very little attrition. We've had mostly only growth. Our worst period was the pandemic, as a lot of manufacturers just across the board cut, right? They wanted to take a wait and see situation, but we're getting them back, and we're continuing to grow with other players. The industry is really growing. It's diversifying. There's a lot more players than ever before. And a lot of them want to come to us and say, okay, we like that you do this and we like that you do that, but really, we just want to be on the hill with all the other guys and put our flag there, so that everyone sees us as being right there next to all these other big companies. And so that's probably the baseline value. The other value is there's an indirect benefit of growing the market, which is our main job. They see us as, well, if I put in a little bit of money and everybody else puts in a little bit of money, surely all us competitors can get along on that. We agree we can get that done. And all that little bit of money adds up. We're still overall a very lean budget, but I call us the mouse that roared, because we get so much done with it. But that budget's used to promote their category and educate the marketplace and create more educated buyers, specifiers, sellers, and so on of lighting controls. Yeah. And so it makes the pie bigger, and then they can go fight over the pie. They can do whatever they want, our members. That's their business. Our business is to make that pie that they're all, fighting over, as big as possible. And then the last thing for our members, there's a direct benefit, which is I treat it like an ad buy. You know, you're going to buy an ad in a magazine, a trade magazine. Say it costs X number of dollars. Okay, take one of those ads and give it to us, and we will get you more impressions. We will get you more clicks. We will get you more positive visibility than, I would say, any trade magazine in the US. The trade magazines are great. They have their place and we love them. We write for a lot of them, but on controls, but we should, if they're advertising, we should get one ad and we will give you so much value for that. And I think that's what the members have really responded to. And other than that, you know, it's really painless to be in our group. Michael Erbsfeld's our executive director in NEMA, and then myself as education director. I have a team behind me that I work with, some writers and very good people like Webster Marsh and Steve Mesh. I work with the board, who's fantastic. You know, but we get an enormous amount of work done without the members having to do much. Like, it's not a lot of work. They don't have to go to a lot of meetings. They don't have to do a ton of stuff. There's a team in place that gets it done. And then they look at what we do and they say, great. And you told me what you did. I got the report. And the members just say, great, I'm getting this value. I can justify this to management. This is good for the industry. It's good for my brand. This makes me look good. I love this. And so we have very happy members as a result.
So is really your team, the educational team, the one behind the content, the Educational Express? So who does the work? Who prepares like the technical knowledge? If the manufacturers are not so involved, like in the day-to-day business, who does the hard work in the educational part?
Well, the process is one of our contributors, which is probably 80% of the time me, and the rest of the time Steve Mesh, who's an engineer and educator, designer that we've worked with, Webster Marsh, who was formerly with Horton Lees. He's a lighting designer who's very keen on controls and keeps abreast of it. This is probably the main editorial team, the three of us. And one of us will write the article or write the column or write the course. And then if it's a course, if it's a column or an article, it's sent to the board and this little technical review committee and a couple of manufacturers will look at it. If it's a course, we send it to the whole membership and then they review. You know, if it's an occupancy sensor course, some companies like, I don't have time for this, but another company might be like, wow, we just launched a new line of occupancy sensors and we want to make sure the category is properly represented. So they'll review it. So we kind of get a different mix every time, but at least a couple voices will chime in to make sure that we're accurate and, you know, and that the information's accurate and useful. And so that's sort of the process, and that's our editorial team.
All right, thank you very much. Now, Craig, if you allow me to talk about about the industry. Something that you mentioned was the LED revolution and the digitalization of the industry. And we believe this is quite important to understand for our listeners. So in this, in the years that the LCA has been running, would you say is the most important revolution that you've seen so far? And if so, what makes it so special? No,
yes, well, yes, the most important revolution that I've seen in my professional career, and I've been doing this since around 1990, has been the LED revolution. And I've seen many revolutions, like fluorescent electronic ballasts basically took over in 10 years. T8 lamps basically took over in a short period of time. There have been some things like that I've seen, but when the LEDs came along, for them to so utterly dominate and in such a short period of time, and what that has produced wasn't just we're saving watts, we're reinventing the lighting product. That just had some downsides, like for example, a lack of standardization. It's probably, I would say for a lot of people, probably isn't a good thing. But it's produced so many great things, like the ability with controls to change the color, change the light level, which, you know, dimming used to be, you needed a dimmable ballast. It was cost more. It was finicky. It had interoperability things going on. You know, it's pretty restricted to the boardroom. Now dimming's everywhere. You have the ability to extract data, which is a whole revolution in its own. You have miniaturization of light fixtures. You have new form factors. You have better optics that are highly efficient, like right on the light source. You have so much more capability and other benefits like longer life, high efficiency, color changing. All these different capabilities are, you know, have come out of the LED revolution. And then of course that has been joined, or that has helped fuel this kind of echoing revolution in lighting controls, where lighting controls are getting smaller, lighting controls are getting digital, lighting controls are increasingly wireless, lighting controls are using digital cabling to be able to send and receive data. That data is now able to be applied to a wide range of applications that 10 years ago were sort of like, you know, was just kind of crazy to think about, that lighting would have anything to do with space utilization or, you know, indoor positioning. All these different capabilities, you know, tracking forklifts in a warehouse for safety and efficiency, like all these different things. It's sort of pretty wild to consider things we take for granted now, but like back then were just would have been wild to contemplate. Seemed like science fiction kind of stuff. But this controls revolution, you know, from everything being dimmable to a lot of things being color tunable, to the controls that provide that, to those controls being able to communicate wirelessly, operate digitally, communicate digitally, send and receive digital information that is then used for non-lighting, non-energy related applications, which is the sky's the limit on where that's going to go. And, you know, and then all the other advantages of having a network where I could get on my laptop and see all the lighting in my building. I can see how much energy it's using. I can see what it's doing. I can see occupancy patterns. I can see everything on my screen. I can type in a new control profile into, I could say that lighting system's not doing, control systems, that's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. I can say, oh, that light fixture is having operating issues. I don't need, and it's on a roadway where it affects safety. I don't have to have a guy with a van driving around looking for high pressure sodium bulbs that are out. I can just look at my screen and send the van out there and do it today, not, you know, within a week or two or even later. I mean, this is just, when you look at the sum of this revolution and how much has happened, the lighting controls revolution may not have been as impactful in terms of adoption, but it's, in my view, as impactful in terms of capabilities. When you think about everything that you can do today with lighting controls, all the way from, you know, a switch on the wall that lets you change the color shade of white, to an aux sensor that automatically turns the lights on and off, to all the way up to network lighting control systems that you're integrating into a building automation system, and you're doing IoT stuff and tracking crash carts in a hospital with RFID tags and beacons. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. And as far as Lighting Control Association is concerned, we look at it as as a good thing for lighting and a good thing for us, because there's so many things we get to write about. It just never ends. And so much education.
Without any doubt, there's so much capability, but it's also so complex.
Yes.
It's created a lot of complexity. What's your take on that? What do you think how long it's gonna take, like, to bring it to new standards, or to really make it easier for even the people in the industry? What's your opinion on that?
Yes, this is a really good question, and one that we wrestle with all the time. Lighting controls are getting easier. They're getting the capabilities can be complex, but the interaction with the controls is actually simplifying, because the manufacturers they understand this is an inhibitor. So they're spending a lot of time trying to develop ways to either make it very easy to commission or self-commissioning, and to just overall make it simpler to use. The complexity comes from, I can change the control profile by time of day or reacting to different inputs. It's like a big computer program, right? You're just making the computer program, the algorithm, more responsive, with more inputs, more outputs. You're layering things together in loops. If you think of it as a computer program, it actually kind of looks simple, but there's a lot that goes into it. And so you have to be educated about it, and you have to accept the complexity. I think the first part of this is that people have to delineate in their mind the amount of effort that goes into different types of control systems. You can't go into a building and say, well, we're going to put aux sensors, and then we're going to maybe do some photo sensing on the perimeter, and aux sensors in some of the private offices, and then the open office, we're going to do a panel. We're going to do a time schedule with an override switch on the wall. Okay. That is very different than, I want a luminaire integrated control system where every luminaire in the office has a photo. Most of them have photo sensors. All of them have an aux sensor. They dim, and then when the entire space is vacated, the entire thing turns off. That is a lot more complicated, right? As far as a sequence of operations. So when I'm doing the one, I might bring a certain level of design discipline to it. When I do the second one, that's a lot more complicated, I have to bring my A game. I can't just say, well, how come it isn't as easy to do as the other thing? Well, it's more complicated. So people, I think, look at lighting controls as all one thing, and it's not. You have to look at the categories of controls as far as basic to the most complex but most robust, powerful systems. So if I want to do network lighting controls, where the building owner is going to have a screen, and that person's going to be able to see everything in their building and change control profiles and communicate with everything and monitor and measure. And well, that takes a lot more design discipline. You need than just the basic code compliant. I got my control panel. I scheduled the time. I put my holidays in. It's more complicated. So you need more design discipline. You need to have a sequence of operations. You need a written controls narrative. You need to talk to the owner about what they want and what are their capabilities. How are they going to be able to maintain and use the system? Do they have that capability? Is that someone who has to come in and do that, or one of their people? Can they be trained? You have to commission the system a little more closely to make sure, because you have more control points, and you have to make sure all these control points are doing what they're supposed to be doing as outputs based on what the inputs are. And so it's more involved. So lighting controls are getting more complex, but like certain categories of it are. The whole thing isn't complex. An aux sensor is an aux sensor. But tying it together with all, into a fixture and the fixture into other fixtures and they, if then, that can be complex. You have to, there's some coordination, there's more documentation. You have to dot all the I's, cross all the T's. You have to make sure you're really on top of it. It takes more discipline and, and more education too. You have to know what the system can do, what the benefits are, what the pitfalls are, the questions other people are going to ask. You have to know that you have to get a little bit of training on the system because my network lighting control system might be different than yours. I do it this way, you do it that way. It can be different. So you have to really learn the systems, the products. And these are just things that the design community has to learn. Now, some don't, some just don't want to. And some do. Some are all over it. Some are never going to be on it, and the rest are in between, right? So what we do is we work with the people who are all over it because we have to keep them informed, and they're the most interested and engaged. And then we take everybody else in between and we try and move them over a little bit at a time by giving them tools, by giving them fundamentals, by giving them information, and hopefully it'll build up in their mind. They'll, if you learn one thing a week, after 52 weeks, a year, you've learned over 50 things. You're like, okay, I'm starting to get this. I can do that. That's not that hard. I just have to make sure I do it, stay on top of it. And so that's kind of where we're at with the changes in the industry and how we respond to controls being complex. They are or they aren't. It depends on what you're trying to do. And if you're trying to do something complex, the solution is going to be complex, and you have to have the budget, time, energy, and design discipline to see that through. You can't just treat it like all as one size fits all with this category.
Thanks for that. So we've talked already about different trends when you mentioned the network lighting controls. I was wondering, how far are we gonna get in that direction? Do you think this is gonna happen faster after the pandemics? Like we're gonna see more NLCs installed? Because I'm asking this because when I work with a manufacturer, by 5 years ago, we believed there was gonna be like a huge push, and we were gonna install it really fast. But then a lot of things happen, like make it difficult to implement, and didn't happen as fast. But what do you think is going to happen with NLCs? Do you see like it's going to be really picking up, or do you think it's going to take some more time? And how do you sell them? Because now the savings, LED is doing all the savings now, and yeah, it's hard to sell only with the energy savings. So that's where are we heading with NLCs, and how do you sell them right now?
Okay, I think it's really important to first delineate again that one thing is not like everything else. So in the network lighting, what we call network lighting controls is actually a broad category of devices that can be connected in some type of network. So that is, for example, includes, say, a room-based control system that I install and set up with an app. I tweak it comes with a sequence of operations. I tweak it a little bit with my phone. The contractor does. And then they're done and just code compliant operation. That's it. That's what it does. And it doesn't really connect anything. It just, all these control points in the room work together to execute simple energy code compliant control strategy. I have now complied with the energy code. I now have a control system. It does its thing and I'm gone. Okay. Then you have a network lighting control system where you're connecting all points in the building. You're tying that all back to a server or the cloud, and you're starting to draw information from it, or you're you're measuring and monitoring maybe, or you're at least going on and doing evaluating control profiles, changing control profiles in the system. I'm going to find this light fixture here, and I'm going to change its sequence of operations, and so those are very different animals, right? So I would argue that room-based control network lighting control systems are actually fairly common, at least in new construction. And when we look at lighting controls, let's face it, that's that's a big part of the market. It's a very robust part of the market. But when you get into a network lighting control system, that's the whole building. You need an owner who values what it's going to deliver. You have all the networking hardware, and software, and you have an owner who may not have personnel who can run it, or evaluate it. So I can help you utilize space in your office building with this data from all the aux sensors and the software, and you get a heat map. Look, this is great. You're going to save money. And then they're like, I don't know, right? The owner. So if they either get it or they don't. And so, yeah, I mean, the most advanced building-wide lighting control systems, network control systems aren't for every building. It's just that simple. But the room-based control systems, I would argue, are for any building. Now you get into the existing building market, existing construction. Now this is challenging because it goes right to your point. I'm installing TLED lamps, so I'm already in the low-cost market, right? Or maybe I put in new fixtures, or maybe it's garbage in, garbage out. I put in the new lamp, I save this energy, I get my ROI, and I'm done. Lighting controls, it's variable, and now my load's a lot smaller, so it actually maybe in some cases will extend the payback because the operating hours or the energy costs aren't there. Sometimes they are there, sometimes they're not. So in those situations, yeah, I mean, it can be challenging. So one idea is wireless, right? So now you don't have control wiring. Another idea is, hey, if you're going to put in a new fixture or even some lamps, retrofit lamps, put a little sensor in there. Why are you running the lights? Why did you retrofit your lights to run them all night? That doesn't make any sense. So at least put an aux sensor on there. And you can actually integrate that. So it adds a little cost, but you're not paying for installation. But a lot of owners, so there are options for existing buildings, but across all buildings, a lot of owners are getting more and more interested in the Internet of Things or IoT this area. They're at least interested in it. And even if they don't know what to do with it, it can be a real challenge, because hear me out. Existing building, hey, put a lighting control system in. Nah, I'm going to do that later. Okay, well now you lost the economizing with the labor you were using to install the new lighting. Now you're going to have it later on. You're going to be interested in the IoT, and you're going to pay a lot of money for the installation, because you're not economizing it. Same thing with new construction. And that's why a lot of owners are now becoming more interested in things that are IoT ready. So they're like, hook it up. We want the capability because we're willing to pay 3% more per square foot for the lighting than 103% later. Because we're going to have to redo the whole lighting control system. So just put it in, IoT ready, and we'll figure it out later. So I think that's where a lot of owners are going. Yeah, I wish there was a secret sauce or like a killer app where the data presented a benefit so compelling, every owner had to have it right now, and that's it. I think we would see a huge wave of adoption. But until then, I think it is a bit of a battle as owners look at each other and say, well, what did they do with the data? What did they do with the data? And they're trying to figure it out. How are we going to do the IoT? And what does it mean to us? Lighting can have a role in that. You know, the light fixtures are great real estate. You put sensors in everywhere. Those sensors are points of data that feed back to a central point. That data can be fed into applications that aren't lighting related, but nonetheless produce a business plan. This is good, really good stuff. Great capability. But we're still waiting for all those use cases to develop and solidify. And I think that that is going to make a big difference. Another thing that's going to make a big difference is, again, the type of owner and the size of the building and what they want. Not everybody wants data. Not everybody needs data. Not everybody has a skilled operator to run the system. Not every, you know, there's a certain part of the market where I would argue every building should have a network lighting control system. There's a certain part of the market where I would argue they don't, but they should have the room-based version, not the building. They should have room network too, but it should be the room-based, maybe not the building-based. If it were me specifying, right, me doing the design. And so I think to answer your question, to sum it up, you would have to look at the market as what the different types of products are, where they fit into the marketplace, who those owners are, where they are with adoption, and what they value. What's the value proposition going to be for them that would be compelling enough and is quantifiable enough that they would invest in a capability and to get these new benefits that are emerging.
Excellent, Craig. And at this point, I'm wondering about the different companies getting into the controls and lighting controls sector. I'm speaking of huge electrical companies, huge control companies that are realizing what you're saying, that we can profit from that data, from the IoT.
Right.
When that killer app comes that you mentioned, that are we gonna see that perhaps the players from history, the historical players, all these big companies that are doing lighting controls are gonna be like swept away and then replaced by different kind of companies? How do you see the players are gonna change in the future, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think the IoT market has a ways to go before we see any kind of impact like that. There have been some new players, but it's been more organic than outside companies coming in, at least from what I can see. I think overall it's been really good. But as far as the big players, I don't see any of them being swept away. I think that ship has sailed with, you know, when the big lamp manufacturers were severely impacted by LED. And you had all these new players and this whole mid-tier market of industry, you know, formed there and started out innovating where the big players used to own that innovation. There's been a big shakeout with the fixture manufacturers, but again, like some of this, and it's happened in controls too, where there used to be one big player and everybody else. Now it's much more equitable and competitive marketplace. I think for users, buyers, sellers, and so on of lighting controls, that's a good thing. More competition is good. It's healthy. There's more innovation, and I think it's good. I mean, it does create its own challenges in terms of interoperability and making sure you work with partners you trust and so on. But theoretically, overall, I think that it brings far more to the table than it adds in risks. Another impact, though, that's going to be interesting is you're going to see, I think we're starting to see a little bit like, say, in the electrical contractor market, a portion of the market that always got it with lighting, it was helpful to them, but now they get it with lighting controls, and that's really helpful to them. And they're leaving a lot of the other guys behind. So these guys used to like, I wire things, and now they're being asked, plug it in, take your app and set it up. And they're like, that's not what I want to do. But the other electrical contractors like, I'll do that. And they're all over it. And so I think there's like a disconnect between that high-end lighting, high-end of certain parts of the sales channel are getting really good, but they're starting to leave the other guys behind. It's not a small chasm, but it's a much bigger chasm. That can be challenging for manufacturers. How do I get that contractor left behind and try and bring him over? Because it's a steeper hill to climb than it used to be. Another thing that is, we'll probably see more low voltage integrators. We may see the emergence of building wide low voltage integrators. These are integrators who are just getting two lighting systems to talk to each other, or getting a lighting and HVAC system to talk to each other, but getting the whole building to talk to itself and share that data with the user via a portal, the smart building. And that is an interesting thing, a goal, that there could be an expert that delivers that. So say I'm a very, very forward-thinking electrical contractor or design build contractor. I could go in and say, I'm going to deliver to your building. I'm going to furnish it, soup to nuts, the whole lighting, HVAC, security, everything tied together into a single system that talks to each other and generates all this data. And look at you, you're buying a smart building from me, basically. Paying him for the shell, you're paying me for a smart building. And that I think there's a role, or there's room, or will be room in the market for someone like that. And lastly, there's a very interesting opportunity coming, at least in the US. I don't know what electrical vehicle adoption is like in Latin America, but in the US, it fits and starts, but it's starting to be required more. And buildings are being required to provide infrastructure for charging, like electric vehicle charging points. So say you have an office building and you drive to work, and there are these parking spaces, that's an amenity, and some or all have a charging point for an electric vehicle. Or say it's a mall and it's a revenue source, it's a meter right on there. You put your credit card in, you charge your car all day. That's a lot of electrical capacity. So if I own this building and I don't have much excess electrical capacity, and I have to add 10% to it or more to add so many electric vehicle charging points, I'm either going to have to install new capacity or utilize the capacity I have more efficiently. Well, that's an interesting prospect. So we had low voltage integration over here, but this is line voltage integration. This is where we are trying to find electrical capacity to service a new need to avoid its cost of building new capacity into the building. Suddenly, network lighting controls, that network lighting control system that was building wide and super super detailed with sequence of operations to maximize energy savings, but it had because of the energy rates or whatever, it had a return on investment of 6 years and 5 years, whatever. And we didn't want that. Suddenly that network lighting control system looks really good because it's being the low-hanging fruit's already gone, and now we're at the high-hanging fruit. And maybe that NLC system's in the high-hanging fruit, but if I pluck that one, put it here, and I pluck another one, put it here, I pluck another one, it all adds up. I've saved myself a lot of money. And I can now maybe add 3 to 5% or none to my building's electrical capacity to service all these electric cars. And because I modernized the building to maximize its energy efficiency, and I was able to find that capacity. So that's this idea of electrification integration being pioneered by some thinkers in the industry like Peter Brown that I find really fascinating. And so we may see some players emerge there depending, again, depending on how things shake out with electric vehicles and whether, how buildings are going to respond to the demand for more power capacity, delivery capacity in their buildings to service these charging points.
Yeah, in any way, there's going to be lots of changes.
Yes,
definitely.
I guarantee that.
That's one thing we can be sure of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Craig, just to wrap things up, and I thank you again for your time today.
Thank you.
I would like to maybe ask you about trends that we haven't spoke about, many things that we have to have in our radar that are worth mentioning, that you as the LCA foresee as that something that's going to happen that's going to be interesting in the future?
Well, the Internet of Things is still interesting to me. There are some sensing technologies being looked at. There's LiDAR, which is kind of interesting and is being looked at for vehicles to sense each other on the road. Yeah, there's another group called LISA with Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute has been looking at lighting systems where they add in, so we add on off, then we add light level, and then we add color. And this new idea for another dimension of control is light distribution. So depending on where the individual is sensed in the room, so if here's the room and here's the task area, say it's a little sculpture, depending on where I am in the space and my orientation to the task, the lighting conditions will sense where I am, what my orientation is, and automatically adjust the light, not only the light level, but the light distribution of the overhead luminaires or whatever luminaires are to optimally light that task for my visual comfort. And I think that is really fascinating in terms of a capability, but I don't know, if we build it, will they come, right, kind of thing. Is there really a need for it? I think we're in a stage of lighting controls where we're seeing, a lot of concepts that are being vetted, and then we just have to see what catches on. And then sort of turns into a trend. Then we know if it's a trend or not. But there's some very, very, very fascinating technologies and capabilities out there. It's all about cost and building it into the existing model and demand from the user. Does this solve a problem for them? So there is a lot going on. Besides that, to me, it's always about basics, like learn controls design. Learn what the strategies are. Learn what the energy codes want you to do. Learn what documentation will result in a better system, a happier result. Learn about commissioning, partner with the right people, all these basics. Learn what the products do. All these basics, I think, are never ending in terms of their importance, not just to the veterans, but to the people who are on the fence and are going to be tomorrow's veterans. And so that's why with Lighting Control Association, I feel like we've been here 22 years. We've seen a lot of things happen. I think we're going to be here probably talking in another 22 years about what we've achieved and what we offer the marketplace then, because there's just a need for it. Lighting controls are and will likely always be application dependent. They're not one size fits all. Control strategies are individual, and you really have to learn this stuff, and it pays off if you do. And we're a place where you can go and do it for free. So if you're willing to spend a little time to level up your skills. So I think that's what our value proposition will continue to be, regardless of where the industry goes. But the more it goes, the more we'll have to talk about, the more fundamentals will become important, and we'll be able to communicate those as well. And the more active we'll be in the industry. So.
Well, thank you very much for your insights. Definitely, we will do our best to communicate all the education express and all the material you got, so we get to those fundamentals that you mentioned we should all build in the industry. Well, Craig, thank you very much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. Appreciate it.
Talk to you.